Welcome back to Forward Progress, part of the Hammer Betting Network. I'm your host, Jason Cooper, alongside Dan Lifshatz, on-air talent and better at 985 The Sports Hub, and co-host of the Over Under 985 show, and also pretty big Patriots fan. You can check out Dan on X at Dan Lifshatz. That's at Dan Lifshatz. Today we'll be covering everything you need to know about the New England Patriots heading into 2024. Before we get started with the video, quickly, I want you to comment below how many wins you think the New England Patriots will get in 2024. Let's jump right into it, Dan. The Patriots finished with a 4-13 record with their last season under Bill Belichick's tutelage. Before we get into 2024, before we look forward, we have to look back. So give me one word or phrase to describe the 2023 Patriots season.
Yeah, dysfunctional. That would be the word that I would use. Dysfunctional, I think, is probably the best word. I mean, there was dysfunction with the head coach. There was dysfunction with the players. There was dysfunction with the coaching staff. And honestly, dysfunction with the ownership. And I think that they were very much looking towards replacing the coach as soon as possible. I mean, we've all heard the rumors that they were going to replace Belichick with Mayo. But, if it wasn't this year, it was going to be next year, which is, I think, their ultimate target. But obviously that didn't work out. And I think there was just dysfunction on all levels of the organization, from the players to the coaches to the ownership and really everything in between, front office as well, of course. It was a disaster. There's no other way to put it outside of dysfunctional, disaster, or whatever you want to use. I think both of those are kind of, I guess synonymous certainly in the situation. So that's kind of the way that I would put it personally. I just think it was a mess, man. There's no other way to put it. Dysfunction, disaster, mess, however you want to term it. It sucked. It was a brutal year to be a fan.
Dysfunctional mess, tough year to be a fan. And of course, as we saw at the end of last season, they completely cleaned house with regards to the coaching. For the first time ever this century, the Patriots will have a head coach not named Bill Belichick, obviously swapping him out for the guy you said, Jerrod Mayo. They're also bringing in a new offensive coordinator in Alex Van Pelt from Cleveland, and then also Demarcus Covington, who kind of worked his way up within the Patriots. So my first question to you is kind of, what do you make of this new coaching staff? Obviously, you can't replace Bill Belichick, but just what are your thoughts from the outside looking in on this new coaching staff?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with the things that I do like. I like Covington. I mean, he's well respected by the players. You've heard nothing but fantastic things from, even the veterans on that team to the rookies. He seems to be well liked, well respected, and to me, that was the correct hire, the right hire, and I'm very excited about that hire. Again, that's the side of the ball that I'm less concerned with, but still, nonetheless, I like that hire, so I'll give them credit for that. Let's move to the offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt. I mean, bad. I'll start with that. It's bad. I don't think that he's a long-term fit for the team. I understand the system and what they're trying to do with him, but I don't. Man, I'm very concerned about the fact that they really wanted a couple other people. They offered the job to Nick Haley. You've heard rumors that there were a couple other people on the list who were ahead of Van Pelt, and he was, fifth, sixth. Some people reported seventh, eighth choice for the Pats offensive coordinator job. I mean, that is extremely concerning that A, no one wanted the job, and B, that we ended up with a guy like Van Pelt, who I know technically was the offensive coordinator in Cleveland, but how much did he do? How impactful was he? There's going to be some questions that we're going to have to find out this year. And then when it comes to the head coach, I mean, look, I think Jerrod Mayo is a very smart, intuitive guy. I think he's earned the respect of a lot of players there. But I think you're already hearing that the big differences between last year and this year. I mean, Keon White just kind of came out and basically said, I miss Bill kind of being on our ass a little bit, and making us run it again, yada, yada, yada. And I am very concerned that we're going to be a little bit soft this year, just because the organization is trying to do a whole new scheme, a whole new look, and a whole fresh, a top-down restart, whatever they want to do. And I think that does come, sometimes kind of breed a little bit of friendliness and let's be friends instead of we're a football team where we're going to war every week. And it is a little bit concerning. I respect Mayo as a defensive mind. I respect Mayo as a leader. I just don't know what to expect of him as a head coach, and I would say right now it's off to a tenuous start at best, and so that is a little bit concerning.
Before we get into the next part of the episode, just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors over at Pinnacle. Pinnacle is the world's sharpest sportsbook, offering competitive odds for 25 years. If you're looking to bet on the NFL, NBA, NCAA football, or any sport for that matter, you should have Pinnacle as one of your available outs. Bet smart, bet Pinnacle, must be 19 plus, and please play responsibly. Yeah, and we're recording this pretty early on in the offseason in case you're watching this later down the road. Just got into OTAs. And I like what you said about Jerrod Mayo, because they really have kind of shaped him over the last 8 years to kind of be the next guy in line, it feels like. But it'll be interesting to see. Maybe it's almost too much of an overcorrection from what Bill Belichick was. And then also just to touch on Alex Van Pelt. I mean, he hasn't called plays. I believe the last time he called plays for a full season was in 2009. So that's going to be a little interesting. Anyways, let's move on to the Patriots lost their biggest edge as a team when losing a coach like Bill Belichick. He can do so many things for you that really no other coach can replace. What was interesting to me, though, is that the Patriots are sitting at around $52 million in cap space with around $40 million effective cap space to use, which is by far the most in the league. So you wanted to touch a bit on this. What are your thoughts on the Patriots not using their money towards free agency to help build their roster in 2024?
I mean, it's concerning, especially when you heard the earlier comments in the offseason saying, hey, we have money, we're going to spend it, we're going to splash some cash. And then, certainly like another team in town, like the Red Sox, you kind of heard them walk that back a little bit. And, now we are where we are, where the team has the most effective cap space as of May 23rd in NFL history. That's a problem. I mean, percentage-wise, I get they're not the number one all-time percentage team, but they're top 5 all-time and number one in overall cap space as of May 23rd. That's a significant issue, and that comes top down from ownership, who I think has been lackluster in the way that they've approached things recently, the last couple of years especially. They need to surround guys like Drake Maye with talent. I think it does kind of take I'll give you a little preview of who they expect to start early on in the season. The fact that they really haven't gone out and haven't added anyone in. I know that they, went supposedly all out for Calvin Ridley. I don't know how much I truly believe that, but, either way, they definitely made a strong push for Ridley. And people are saying, well, who do you want to spend it on? Well, give me some one-year guys. Give me some guys that are, going to come in and at least bolster the roster. So if Drake Maye has to come in, he's not going to get pounded into the ground every play. And so my biggest concern is the fact that they did not spend once again. They do have to spend at some point per the league rules, so they're going to have to do it. But when is that going to be? Who is that going to be on? Are they just going to do kind of what they used to do, which is sign guys for cap space but not spend actual money, which is how they used to structure all their contracts? Because, again, I believe the owner is a little bit cheaper than, a lot of people do around here. And I am a little bit concerned about that moving forward with this team, not just this year, but looking off into the next 2, 3, 5 years. Really, I'm very concerned about the spending and the actual cash spent by this ownership group, and that includes the coaching staff as well. I mean, Belichick basically had, I believe, a blank check that he was given, and then had to divvy up money to his assistant coaches. Like, why are we doing that? Pay the coach and then pay the assistant coaches. Why do we need to divvy up this pool? Again, are we going to stop spending money on assistant coach? Like, there's just a lot of things that are concerning for me. And moving forward, we really need to see what is going to happen with this group. So that's one thing I'm definitely looking forward towards the future. I'm concerned with, no doubt.
Yeah, and with so much effective cap space. And I looked at like the free agent pool. I know we're late in the season, and it's just really just aging veterans. Nothing really that kind of like would interest me at the very least. I guess you could maybe fill some holes, add some role players. But again, like, it feels like a take your medicine year right now for the Patriots. If we just take a look and flip over and look at some of their adds and losses, they've lost obviously Jalen Mills, Gesicki, Miles Bryant, Trent Brown. Not too many losses, but again, the adds that they brought in were, like I said, role players. The most notable add to me has to be Jacoby Brissett. You needed a quarterback there. You bring in Antonio Gibson, KJ Osborne to maybe spice up the offense a little bit, but again, no one who really stands out to me. Right. The biggest ads obviously came through the draft. But one question I had is about this defensive unit, right? You bring in all these guys, but no real major ads on the defensive unit. And we know how good this team has been defensively year over year with Bill Belichick, right? And of course, a lot of that has to do with him. On paper, you have, like I said, a relatively similar team as to last year. You're just swapping out basically Miles Bryant for a healthy Christian Gonzalez. Core pieces are still there for this defense. So my question to you is, what are your expectations of the New England Patriots defense? What is it going to look like in 2024?
I think it's really hard to know. I think it's really hard to kind of know what you're going to get from a head coach's perspective, because obviously Bill was your greatest asset defensively. He put players in the right position. And even though if you didn't agree with everything he did, I think that losing that means you immediately have to downgrade the defense. No matter how you feel about how this team is on paper, I think losing Bill Belichick as an asset, even keeping Mayo, even keeping Covington, you immediately have to downgrade the defense as a whole. You absolutely must. So I know I'm going to be downgrading the defense personally myself. I don't love the addition of Taki. I think, replacing obviously, what you lost there is fine. And again, losing Jalen Mills and Miles Bryant. Bryant was a guy who got picked on relentlessly at times, but obviously made some plays. Mills was really had a 2 year spur with this team. After that, really has done nothing. So you're going to be asking for some younger players to step up, which is, not a major surprise there. Look, I think they'll be better. I think they'll be better in certain situations. I think the secondary will be better. I think the front seven will be a concern. I still think they'll be able to, maybe a little bit more aggressive defensively. I think Belichick's style is probably a little bit more conservative, especially on the defensive line. So I think you'll probably be looking for some more sacks, but that also comes with probably some more gaps and some more, defensive issues with the run. And so that's where I think teams are going to attack them, especially with the way their secondary is set up. I would expect teams to try and gash them up front. So I'd say I'll probably downgrade the defense some. Again, I don't love what they did defensively. Not saying, that they, are terrible or took major steps back, because they have young players and those guys will take steps forward. But I am concerned with the scheme. I'm concerned, obviously, the loss of Belichick. And again, the downgrade at linebacker to me was a little bit of a surprise. Everyone really around here is saying great things about Taki. I was not the biggest fan of him in Cleveland. So.
Yeah, that's fair. The defense really has a lot. They left a lot to be desired in free agency. And again, like you mentioned, losing Bill Belichick, it's massive. You're going to you mentioned you respect Demarcus Covington, but again, this is gonna be his first time calling plays, so we don't know what it's going to look like for this defense. And yeah, I feel like the league kind of tells you what they think to this question when the Patriots bring back a guy like Josh Uche, who looked pretty good with the Patriots last year, but kind of got a 1-year deal, $1.3 million. Wasn't really valued in free agency. So that kind of tells you a lot about what the NFL thinks about the Patriots and Bill Belichick and their defense as a whole. Let's flip over to the offensive side of the ball. Patriots obviously drafted the QB, hopefully, of their future in Drake Maye. They also bring in Jacoby Brissett, who seems to be like a perfect bridge quarterback for Drake Maye. But then they also spent a late round pick on Joe Milton. So a couple questions for you here. What are your thoughts on the QB room? When do you think Maye will step in, if he steps in this year? Do you think it could be out of camp? Do you think it's mid-season? And then also, just curious your thoughts on what you think of a team using a late round flyer on a backup quarterback like Joe Milton when you just drafted Drake Maye in the same draft.
Yeah, so I'll start off with this, and I'm sure most people know, if you follow my Twitter, my thoughts on this now. I don't like Drake Maye as a prospect. I didn't want anything to do with him. I'm extremely disappointed by the way that the Patriots approached this draft. I did not want to draft a quarterback. You take a look at the success around the league, and it has been San Francisco and teams like Philly and all these teams, Kansas City, teams who build the roster, have a bridge quarterback and then find the quarterback when that roster is getting close to, competing. And I just think the Patriots are so far away from, kind of doing that process and really getting close to that process that I'm extremely concerned about it. So I don't like Maye as a prospect just in general. I don't think that he fits the roster, the timeline, or anything. But just as a prospect, I don't like him. I don't like what he did at UNC. It was extremely concerning. His tape last year, even more concerning. I think most are, the NC State game is one of the worst games I've ever seen for a top 5 draft pick ever for a quarterback prospect. That's blown away how bad he was in that game. So I'm concerned. I do like, obviously, the addition to Brissett. I think that you can't possibly get worse than what Mac Jones was last year, right? You have to assume that Brissett will be better. So that is an upgrade there. I don't really know what else is going to happen with Bailey Zappi. Who knows? Is he going to be a waiver wire guy? What are they going to do with him? I'm not sure. Practice squad potentially. There was not a lot of interest in Zappi last year when they did release him. So we'll see there. The Milton draft pick was actually one of my favorite picks of the draft. I think, again, big arm quarterback, a little bit mobile. I think they, he's the type of guy that he's your type of prototypical NFL project. And, this is going to be a team where you have, a guy like Brissett probably for 1 year, most likely. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm okay with them taking our late round flyer on Milton, especially with the way the roster is set up and everything else they need. Well, what's the difference at this point? So, the quarterback room is healthy. And and definitely has upside, no doubt about it. But, obviously concerning. I mean, again, depending on how you feel about Drake Maye, I think is how you feel about the quarterback room. I don't like Drake Maye as a prospect. I'm extremely concerned about him moving forward and moving, adjusting to the NFL. So I think that to me, that kind of answers it for me. But for maybe someone like yourself or others listening, I think that a day like May, they will feel better about the quarterback room. And I think that's really what's going to depend on how you feel about Drake Maye as a pro prospect and as a quarterback. And just in terms of when he's going to start, I mean, taking a look at the schedule, the first 4 weeks are brutal. At Cincinnati, Seattle, at New York, at San Francisco. I think the realistic opportunity here is that, week 5 game against Miami, which I think is crazy that you would throw him in there against a divisional opponent. But really, when else are you going to do it? You want to throw him in next week against Houston and CJ Stroud? Maybe that could be a possibility there. Then you have to go on the road to, against the Jaguars in London. Like, there really is not a great, area unless you want to start him after the bye week and you want to throw him in there week 15. That's another possibility, I guess, as well. It just the way the schedule breaks out, the first 9 weeks, or 8 weeks, I should say, this year are really brutal. So maybe that's when you look. I mean, there are a few scheduling situations, but there's no clean cut. This is when he's coming in. This is how we know, when he's going to kind of take over the reins. And if gun to my head, I'm probably going, week 5, week 6, Brissett probably gets killed behind the offensive line. The wide receivers aren't doing much. And you hear all the fans screaming for Drake Maye. I think the peer pressure will get to a guy like Jerrod Mayo and will get to a guy like Elliott Wolf. And I think they will insert him. So I'd say probably earlier than most people think, maybe week 5, week 6, probably around that area.
All right, that sounds about right. A lot to digest there. Let's flip over and talk about kind of the expectations for this team. We talked about how they were built, the kind of their big additions, and what should we expect from the New England Patriots in 2024? Win total right now over at Pinnacle, it's 4.5, juice towards the over. Last year it was 7.5. Obviously, much different team this year compared to last year. Division is 25-1, AFC champion 75-1, Super Bowl 163-1. If you're betting those, please just donate to charity or something instead. But yeah, anyways, people are believing in the New England Patriots. Although the market really is not. I want to say the public is believing in the New England Patriots, although the market is not. Brett Coleman, who's kind of like a film guy on Twitter, he had this to say about the Patriots win total. Patriots win total is at 4.5, and that doesn't make sense to me at all. They look like they will land somewhere between 7 to 9 wins, in my opinion. That defense is still great, better weapons, better quarterback play. They probably won't be amazing, but I can't see them being awful again. It seems, like I said, the public sentiment is kind of straying away from what the early market is saying. So what are your expectations for the Patriots in 2024?
Yeah, I'm slightly to the over. I mean, I probably have them between 5 and 6 wins, I think, depending on, injuries and quarterback breaks. A lot of people, don't remember how lucky the Patriots have been with injuries the last couple of years, especially if the, quarterbacks on the opposing teams. They've faced a million backups in the last couple of years. I can't even count. I know 2 years ago it was something like they faced like 13 backups in 17 games. It was something absurd. So, I mean, I do think that, again, that luck probably does eventually start to run out. But, again, if we're breaking down just based upon the schedule, looking at the offense, looking at the defense, I mean, they're probably a 5 to 6 win team. And I think early on, they may really struggle out of the gate here. You could be looking at 0-5, 0-6. Now, I realistically think that they'll probably be a little bit undervalued here. They'll get a win or two, especially at home. I think they have to be better at home than what they've been, especially better than they were last year. So I would expect them to get a win or two. But I mean, the schedule is quite brutal for them. There's no other way to put it. They play one of the toughest schedules in the NFL this year, at least in my personal opinion. The first 4, 5, 6 weeks, however you want to phrase it, to me are going to be extremely difficult. I do think that they'll improve. They have that week 9, week 10, week 11 gap there, even against LA, where I think they could collect a couple wins and maybe look, kind of turn some heads and maybe start to head a little bit the trajectory upwards. But just in general, I think this team is probably a 5 to 6 win team. I do think they go over 4.5. Especially better quarterback play. You'll probably get similar defense. Obviously, you probably downgrade a little bit, but by midseason, you'll probably, have an idea of where that is. Offensively, they're still a disaster. The offensive line is an absolute mess. I mean, you really have two guys plugged in for sure. Your right tackle and your center. Outside of that, it's a complete unknown, really, especially the guard positions, the left tackle position. Complete mess. You could be looking at rookies starting there. Who knows? We'll see. Again, it really is kind of a mess when you're looking at a Steelers backup as your potential left tackle, or Caden Wallace, who's really never played there, the rookie out of Penn State, who's really never played there, and then you're looking at potentially Layden Robinson starting at left guard. Cole Strange, the reports is he's probably going to be out more than half the season at this point. So you're looking at either Layden Robinson or Nick Levert or Antonio Mafia. Guys who just backups and scrubs and guys who really should not be starting on an NFL team. Just taking a look at, between what you have there, the wide receiver position is really a very big unknown as well. Like, what are you going to get out of second-year Demario Douglas? What is Jalen Polk going to provide you? Is Javon Baker going to make this team? I know he's talking a lot, but is he actually going to make the team? What is KJ Osborne going to do? Offensively, there are so many questions, especially at the offensive line and the wide receiver positions. Just don't expect them to excel at either of those spots. They might find a guy or two here or there, but for the most part, I would expect some, again, maybe not even regression, but just continuous frustration and disappointing production. So I'll go 5.5 will probably be my fair number. I probably wouldn't, that would probably where I make the line. So definitely over the 4, even with the juice price. I think it's probably, still a little bit short with the Patriots just due to public sentiment. But yeah, I disagree. I don't think they're a 6-7 win team. I don't think they're that good, unfortunately. And, the loss of Bill Belichick, especially defensively, I think will kind of have a little bit of a bigger impact than people think. So I'll go with 5-6 wins in that ballpark.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Feels like a very, I said it before, take your medicine year, just kind of roll with the punches and just get to the end of the season and look forward to next season for the New England Patriots this year. If you made it this far in this video, that means you probably like our content. So press that like button. It goes a long way for us. And if you enjoy this content and you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're previewing all 32 NFL teams here on Forward Progress as we make our way towards training camp. So make sure you turn notifications on when subscribing so you never miss out on our newest videos. If you're not into notifications, there should be a little button on your screen right now that will direct you to a playlist. Bookmark that playlist. You don't want to miss out on these team previews. Also, make sure you go check out Dan on X at Dan Lifshatz, and you can find him more of his work at 985 The Sports Hub and at the Over Under 985 show. Let us know your thoughts on the New England Patriots in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.